Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another week of Keeping Up with Conspicuous. It feels a bit weird because today I'm in the office, hence the background, but I am joined by the lovely Antonis today. And we're basically going to be talking all things Power Platform, which will be quite nice. So thank you so much for joining us this week. And I know we're going to have quite a good discussion. But for those that don't know you, if you could just give us a brief synopsis of your background and where you're at today.
Of course. First of all, thank you, Lucy, for inviting and for having me, and thank you everybody for joining. I'm really excited about that, and you can see my dedication to this podcast by the colors
The
I'm
pink
on
top.
that. Yes.
Brilliant.
So quickly on my background, I come from Greece. This is where I finished school. I went in the UK to study there, did economics and a master's degree in risk management, financial engineering, which have little to do with my job, which is consulting. So after that, I went on in consultancy, London-based, and navigated through many projects of different nature, from GDPR, which was my first love, to some cybersecurity ones, identity and access management. And this is until I met Microsoft, and it's very cool. One of my favorites ever projects in a financial services institution, where it was about driving the adoption of Microsoft Teams. It was before COVID, which was very helpful for
Yes.
that bank. And yeah, that was my first proper interaction and introduction to Microsoft technology, and fell in love with that. I started learning more and more about this, and building my skill set on the different tools, including Power Platform, which is what I have been doing for the last 4 years, 5 years
Yeah.
probably now. There was a little bit of Power BI with a small project for NHS, the healthcare industry in the UK. And then my current project is in the energy industry. I've moved there, and it is similar scenario to the Microsoft Teams one. It's about driving the adoption and the usage and the optimization of Power Platform in the business. And my focus is mainly on the Power Apps and Power Automate side of it, from a learning and user engagement and communications perspective.
Wow. Wow, that's a good background, must admit. I mean, coming from Greece to the UK is a big thing as well. I think I want to do the opposite. I think I want to go to Greece, a lot warmer. um,
Very
and as
welcome.
yeah, definitely. And obviously, you sort of, as you said, came into Microsoft. Now, so many people come into the industry and a lot of people end up staying within the industry. So do you feel like this is where your career will stay within now?
Yeah, never say ever.
That's
Uh,
true.
yes, you never know how things change, but no, definitely, I can see myself in the business for a long time, um, and I try to build my skill sets and my certifications, my expertise in things that I like, and knowing, getting to understand the tools better. It helps me understand also what I like to do more. Is it like
Yeah.
Power Apps or Power Automate? Is it adoption, or is it training and workshops, or is it running forums and podcasts? So yeah, I see myself in the business for a long time. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, I thank you for coming on the podcast, and hopefully this one will make you love it, that you'll do even more. um, but obviously, with coming into the IT industry, especially Microsoft, there's always sort of changes and updates that have gone on. So obviously, you were sort of coming into the Power Platform about 5 years ago. So how have you sort of seen the technology evolve? Has there been much change since you first come into it?
Yeah, there is actually constant change. The only thing that doesn't change is that there is more change. Yeah, I think in each of the tools, I'll speak about Power Apps and Power Automate because this is what I currently focus on. It's both change in terms of the interface itself, like the new design studio for Power Automate, or new buttons, modern controls, new settings for Power Apps, let's say. but it's also a lot of changes in the functionality. So
Yeah.
formulas that didn't exist back then, they exist today. Or integration with tools, it's becoming richer and richer. Or yeah, many different things. It is enhancing and improving. Of course, AI and Copilot and the integration of that, that's a big chapter. It's still early years, like baby steps where we are. But yeah, this is more of a major change that is coming in bits. And this is what I like about Microsoft, this philosophy of evergreen, that instead of doing, one huge update and then 2 years, another huge deployment of an update, they bring the change gradually in smaller parts. And I think this is easier to digest and to get to know and understand.
That's very true, actually. I've never actually thought about it in that way, that it is those small baby steps. And I must admit, my technology oh, I can't even talk today. Technology knowledge on like other ERPs and bigger areas like Sage, Oracle, and stuff aren't obviously the same as what I have with Microsoft. But I don't know. Do you know if they sort of do it in the same way as in like those baby steps, or are they more of the sense of they'll do like a drop every 2 years? Or are you in the same position that you're not unsure with that?
And sorry, you said about other organizations, not Microsoft, or
Yeah,
inside
yeah.
Microsoft.
Yeah, so other
Yeah,
organizations, do they do baby you might not know because I don't, because
haven't thought
obviously we're
about that.
Microsoft. I know, I
Yeah.
have to look into that.
I think if you compare like Gmail, like I use Gmail, like my personal email is
Yeah,
Gmail. So I have, yeah, seen some differences over the years, and it's never been a big one. So I assume,
that's
yeah,
true.
it's not unique to Microsoft, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. I might have to look into that. Because as you said, Microsoft makes it very easy to digest because there is so many updates and improvements with tech, but they do make it very easy for people to stay up to date, and they provide a lot of tools with it as well, which is good. Um, Now I know one thing that you sort of touched upon is the coaching side of things, and that's something that you're quite passionate about and something that you do every I assume every day, is that right?
Yeah, kind
Yeah.
of.
Yeah. So if people were to know a little bit more about that side of things, like what does that involve? What are the highlights of it? Maybe what are some of the challenges you face with it? Let's dive into that a bit more.
So the idea is that when we speak about coaching, this is, I would say, it's two parts. Like it's either supporting people with finding and troubleshooting with finding the fix to an issue they are facing with their development, or maybe acting as a, a party for discussion,
Yeah.
exchange and work on an idea, evaluate whether it's a good fit for part platform, and if yes, which of the tools is the best option. So yeah, it's different people with different requests of different nature, and it's a cliche, but there are so many different ideas and different use cases that it's never get boring, and it's also rewarding, not only because you help people, which is always a great feeling, and you see the value for the business, but also because you learn a lot as part of that. I have learned myself a lot of solutions and tricks as part of coaching others. In terms of challenges, um, let's see. So I think that, okay, this is not unique just to Power Platform. But time is always a challenge, and people come with all
Yeah.
the good intentions. They've got a brilliant idea, but because it's not their main job to work on this Power App solution, always,
Yeah.
they then get busy on another priority and they forget about it, or it shuts down. It shuts down eventually. So that's one thing, time. Then I think really important, and this is something that it, you need, as a coach, you need to keep that in mind, that sometimes people, they they don't listen active, like you, like for example, you explain the formula to them and you give them the solution,
Yeah.
but they don't understand the formula necessarily. So they are too passionate about finding the fix that they cannot, you know, carry the knowledge to something else. They don't learn about the tool.
Yeah.
They hear what you say, but they don't listen to you. Is it right?
Like, yeah, so
Yeah.
they listen to you, but it's not like active listening.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And a third thing that I've noticed a couple of times is that I also do myself, so I don't blame people, of course. But
Yeah.
for example, if I watch a video of Shane Young or Reza doing something cool, then
Yeah.
when I want like designing a form, let's say with Power Apps, then when I go on and design my form on Power Apps, I will make it look exactly the same as I saw in the video and give it the exactly same functionality or the exactly same way. So people sometimes they see a template that we provide, or they see
Right.
yeah yeah a template, and they go on and replicate it 100% or 95% without making any modifications or customizations or extending that, which is a challenge again in the same spirit that it kind of limits the creativity and it
Yeah.
doesn't, yeah, you don't learn necessarily a lot.
Yeah. No, that's a really good one actually, because I know we've had someone come on previously and they sort of said the same thing is communication in that part of coaching is so key. And I think you touched on the other side of it, that you can be a really good communicator, but they can sit here and nod along and pretend that they, they understand. That if they were actually actively listening and sort of absorbing everything, they might ask a few questions about stuff. But some people just don't, do they? And they just nod along. And then when it comes to it, they're like, I don't know what I'm doing. So I think that's a really good point. And then, as you said, I think with Microsoft and the technologies, you have to be quite experimental with it, would you say? Like if you're doing things just by the book, you're never going to get the most out of a system. And sometimes you've got to try stuff. You might fail. But I think that's also good why there's coaches and mentors out there like yourself that, can be like, okay, you've tried this, but that didn't go to plan. Like, let's think about this way. Could you do that? But as you said, if it's too textbook and they just copy a template,
Yes,
that learning won't progress. And they might find something new when they're trying to add a customization or add-on on that you might not know. And that's how this Microsoft Circle sort of works, I guess, which is, yeah, really,
that's
really
the
good.
mentality of the citizen developer, the mindset. It's part of the skill set that they should have to be inquirers and
Yeah,
creative. Yeah.
that's very true indeed. And I know obviously as we were just sort of touching base on, having a coach that can actually be able to be there for these type of people. And you might find, whether it's like an end user you're trying to train up like a client, or whether it's just someone else in the environment, I think it's so key to have those type of people about, um just to obviously give their input and have someone to fall back on, which is quite nice. Now obviously for people that are coming into the industry within Power Platform,
Hmm.
uh, you know, what would your advice be to them?
Yes, and I also say that to people that I coach that are new to our platform. Don't, you know, once you get the basic level of understanding, once you understand the fundamentals, don't go on and build your real thing, like your real problem. Start with a small project. It could be something very simple and small, like build a simple form or a one screen app or a small game like tic-tac-toe. Do something
Yeah.
like that, and that way you'll understand better the tool. You'll apply some of the knowledge you've learned. You'll understand better your gaps in the knowledge and what you're not so sure about. You'll experiment with the design part of it, the colors, the theme, accessibility probably, and so that will make you better equipped and more ready to build your real solution. Because we don't want you to build the thing that you will be using for the next 10 months in your team without being 100% ready for it. So
That's
that's
yeah.
that's the first piece of advice. And the second one is learn by doing. Of course, we all learn in different ways. Some of the people learn like from videos, people learn from books, people learn from articles, people learn from word of mouth and by working with coach. But for me, and this is why I suggest it to others, learn by doing is the fastest way. Try do something. If it doesn't work, don't get discouraged, don't get sad. It's expected that you cannot solve everything
Yeah.
with the first go. Do your research, ask people, try get some support, and this is how you learn. You learn, at least for Power Platform, I think you learn by doing, by trying.
Absolutely. That's really good advice actually for both of them. I think no once again, no one we talk about different topics on this podcast, but no one's highlighted the fact that if you're new into it, don't build your official thing straight away. Have that time just to play around, do those little things. I think that's really a really important message for people that are listening at the moment. And I will just say, if anyone's got any comments or anything whilst Antonis is online, we'll be happy to answer any questions if they come through. If not,
Of course.
as usual, we'll answer them afterwards either way. Um, but yeah, I know a lot more people actually in the market are coming into Power Platform, and I'm giving out a lot of advice nowadays because people obviously ask what they can do to enhance their profiles. And I will always say, if they're in Dynamics Business Central, customer engagement, or F&O, and that's all they've got, I do now say, if you've got the time to learn the fundamentals of Power Platform, I think 2025 is when we're going to start to see even more of an increase of that demand of knowledge. Now, obviously, you said about the fundamentals, and I know there's a certification for the fundamentals, isn't there?
Yes, PL 900, if not
Yeah.
mistaken. Yes.
Yeah, which would you say that's quite important for people to do? Is it you like beneficial to someone's career within Power Platform?
Yes, sure. I, this is not a certificate that I would not recommend. I
Yeah.
think I find what I find with these certificates is that they work great as as an incentive that you like force yourself because there's a date, you have paid for the exam, and now you have to, there's no delays anymore, no excuses anymore. You have
Yeah.
to do your preparations and your reading and your practice. And it's not necessarily that they are easy exams. So I find a lot of the questions, while they're not supposed to be complex or extensive, they can be quite tricky in the phrasing, or they
Okay.
touch on a wide area. Like it's not only about, for example, Canvas apps, or only about schedule Power Automate flows. It's also Dataverse. It is our pages. It may be Power Virtual Agents and Copilot. So it's a lot of mini chapters that you have
Yeah.
to get familiarized with. So um, I don't want people, I don't think that somebody needs to have the basic knowledge of all these things to be called a citizen developer. You could just be using Power Apps or Power Automate and still be a great citizen developer.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but I think this is if you want to get better, if you can see your career, if you just want to feel more confident and more comfortable with the tools, yeah, sign up for a certificate.
That's really good advice actually. And as you said, some people just go in to specialize within a certain area of Power Apps, and that's absolutely fine. So, Power BI, I have Power BI specialists and stuff that have learned that area inside out. So no, that's really useful to know. Now, obviously on about Power Platform and all the areas of it, what what is your favorite tool that you like to use? What's your favorite area of Power Platform?
Good question. So, it, so it's a different. So I think Power BI is the most popular one.
Okay.
Most people, it's the most mature one. It was the one that most businesses encountered first. So it is really significant already. Uh, Power Apps is probably my favorite ones in terms of using. I love building
Okay.
apps. I love the formulas. I love the process of designing and decorating and adding functionality to the app, providing, creating a nice user experience, a smooth user experience, a nice interface. So it's in terms of personal preference, this is the one that I love when I have to work on it the most. And Power Automate is the one that I probably would say is the most not important, maybe the most beneficial, the most valuable, uh,
Okay.
in the sense that, okay, I'll explain. First of all, I think it has, like, if you think about it, it's got the more tangible and direct benefits. The moment you have automated something, you are guaranteed saving some time on yourself and perhaps digitalizing something, perhaps saving money, saving licensing costs. The
Yeah.
benefits are really, in your face, in front of your face.
Yeah.
Um, it's also, I think, relatively faster to use. You can build a simple flow that does wonders in even 10, 20 minutes if you know the stuff, if you know what you need to do. So
Yeah.
it's not that you will have to work for weeks necessarily to finish your flow, like maybe you would have to do with your app or your report. And integrates with so many other tools, not just it integrates with Power Apps and Power BI and the rest of the Microsoft, but also with non-Microsoft tools like Google, with AWS, with legacy third-party systems, ERP tools. So it's got such a wide range of applications already, and you can use it to improve other apps. And that's why I would say it's the most versatile at the moment.
That's a good breakdown of them
What,
actually.
what's your view? What's your view on that? What's your thoughts?
So I would say because the two that we use internally the most would be Power BI and Power Automate. So we to be able to see like our CV send outs, our interview to placement ratios and everything, we have a Power BI um, that obviously generates all of our graphs and statistics, which help us to see like our overview. So we use that quite a lot. Power Apps I don't really get too involved with. I know there is certain apps that I could use, like to do and stuff like that. Obviously, I've never built my own, um, but I would say they're probably there, but we don't. Well, personally, I don't utilize them the most. But and then Power Automate this year and next year, I think are going to be probably my best friend. I'm talking to the developers of our internal system at the moment to automate some of my email flows and stuff like that and reminders to link up to everything. Um, so Power Automate is probably going to be a bigger thing that the developers will educate me on and save time for me job wise. So that will probably be the most beneficial one to me. Power BI is probably the most popular one that's always been there and is obviously a safety net to know statistics and stuff like that, which is always good for us. And then virtual agents, obviously, we won't really use for our type of business. So yeah,
I think there is a right or wrong answer to that. It really depends on your specifications
organization.
and requirements. Yes.
Absolutely. I'm more intrigued. Do you remember, obviously it will be 4 or 5 years ago, if Power Apps was your favorite, what was your first ever app that you tried building? Do you remember? Casting your mind back a while now.
Oh, I have to dig out the answer to that. Now I'm intrigued as well. It was
Yeah.
something. I remember it was something like having a home screen with a picture and some text, and then a button that would take you to a second screen. And in the second screen, what did they have there? I can't remember what's the use case. I think
Okay.
it was more like just experimenting with the tool, like Hello World for developers for programming languages, which is always the first uh, thing that they do with this output, where computer says Hello World. Um, yeah, but interesting question. No,
Yeah.
you caught me unprepared for that.
No, that's all right. I know I've just sort of ask that one off the back, but I think it's quite good for people to hear obviously where people started. It's quite nice. You have to look back now. You're probably thinking like, is that right? Or what's another good question about it? What's your most memorable or favorite app that you've sort of built during your time of like learning and developing?
So I'll choose
Oh,
one that is not about business. So it was an app that it had a series of small games and activities to celebrate the birthday of a friend, like silly, stupid games. Just
yeah.
clicking on on a button and somebody singing the happy birthday song, and then a small what was it, like a game where you had to get to the birthday cake, click on the arrows to avoid some obstacles and reach the end target, which was the birthday cake. Or you could choose your like some two up to two ingredients from a list, and then it will shuffle the ingredients and it would serve the cake with these ingredients like strawberries and chocolate.
That's so
So
cool.
yeah, that was for just personal personal use. It was near a friend's birthday, and it was just like a teaser to the actual birthday with those small.
Yeah. That's so good. I just find it so interesting knowing like the type of stuff you can do with it because obviously I'm not a tech person. So like I just like knowing like the different things people can build and do. And as you said, it can be just fun stuff like that as well. So that's
Absolutely.
pretty cool. Now, how do you stay up to date with I know we sort of touched upon it a little bit with how Microsoft make it digestible in small steps, but what is there out there that has helped you kept up to date? What have you found the most beneficial?
Well, there's a great podcast by a company called Conspicuous, which I
Nice.
strongly recommend. But no, it's using different set of channels. I think I've got the privilege that as part of my work, I get to see some of the updates and experiment with them quite fast, but also subscribing to the communities, the different forums for Power Apps, Power Automate. Strongly recommend for people to do that for
Yeah.
Q&A, but also to be able to take updates and read the blogs of Microsoft. I attend a monthly meeting of digital champions for the Microsoft community,
Okay.
where I see demos of solutions and also listen to success stories and use cases. Really, really nice. And yeah, of course, LinkedIn, YouTube, all those the common suspects like Saint Young, Reza Derani, Matthew Devani, April. Yeah, it's not the first time that probably people hear these names.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, there's a lot of tools out there from what you've just mentioned, so you're well equipped, I guess, to stay up to date. And where do you think the direction of Power Platform is going to go in the next few years? How do you think it will evolve?
I think it will evolve positively. It will become better. I
Yeah,
can see, yeah, no, I can see demand for this increasing, and the tools start finding applications in different industries that are not so mature there at the moment. I think integration with other tools will become richer. We already see some things like with Microsoft Forms and Power Automate. This is just an example.
yeah,
AI, so Copilot, when it become more mature, the tools themselves will become more intelligent. You'll be able to build more intelligent and complex solutions faster, regardless of your skill set. And another one, I think, the last one, so professional development with the Power Platform. We are seeing steps already. The last one with the opening of the YAML code and how
yeah,
you can get direct, visibility of the code used and do modifications and customize and configure to build things faster. Yeah, I think this is moving towards the direction where our apps are made RBI. These are not neglected as tools by professional developers, and they start taking advantage of this as well. So more powered platform, more intelligent powered platform, more integrating powered platform, and more professional powered platform. That's
Absolute. That last one was a
something.
tongue twister. Um, yeah, and I think one thing you mentioned as well is it is gonna become more user friendly, and a lot more people are gonna be able to use the platform, which I think will be a big thing, because it opens up a lot more opportunity for end users, businesses, and stuff like that. Now, the one thing I was gonna say, and I don't know whether you've had a chance to maybe think about this, but what feature or capability would you like to see added onto it? What do you think would really sort of take it to the next level?
And there are many small features that I can think of,
Okay.
but the bigger one, I'll go for that one definitely. It doesn't really affect me so much as a coach, but licensing. So it's unbelievable how sometimes it can be so so confusing, so complex. If you cannot explain licensing to a 5-year-old child, it's too complicated. And
Yeah.
I think Microsoft needs to get better on that, because there are questions that are gray areas. There are, not even the users, the organizations themselves, they understand so,
Right.
so transparently and so clearly. It's not obvious how you're meant to have your licensing structure. So yeah, I hope that this becomes easier to digest in future.
Absolutely. No, that's a really good one. Now, obviously, I think we've covered quite a bit about Power Platform and the suite itself. I think you've touched upon a lot of areas people haven't mentioned before. As we said, we don't know the future direction of it, but we can only expect it to be positive, as you said, which I truly agree with. And I think we're already starting to see the cogs in motion for things progressing within this area and enhancing, which is good. Um, but yeah, I mean, if there's any sort of last thoughts or opinions you want to give to everyone, I'm sure they'll be happy to help. And then I've got one more question before we leave.
Sure. No, there are no final thoughts. It was just a real pleasure being in the podcast. I certainly enjoyed that, and you're a great host.
Yeah.
And yeah, please let's have a second round of it in a year or so, and we can return to those predictions and see
I
how we
think
did. Yeah.
that's a very good thing to do. We'll definitely get something booked in. Now, we've introduced a little, I don't know whether you've seen any of the recent podcasts, but we've introduced like a little fun last question. And the
Okay.
question is, if you weren't in the IT industry in your current job role and you couldn't go anywhere in the IT industry, what would be your dream job outside of this?
Okay. So dream job outside of IT industry.
Yes.
Um, can I say school teacher? uh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's
That's
quite.
different.
I'm actually, yeah, I'm thinking of doing that at some point. It's I love, and I think that's one of the reasons why I may be a coach at the moment. That I love sharing knowledge. I love helping people, and I love
Yeah.
working with students as well. So yeah, I can see myself at some point uh, being either a full time or a part time or doing some part of it. Uh, yeah, a teacher. If not teacher,
Interesting.
something about sports. I would love doing analytics for sports, but again, this is a little bit of IT, so I didn't pick it. So
Ah. No,
yeah.
that's all right. I'll give you that. It's still not in the IT industry direct. They're really good actually. I used to love like the analytics side of sports because that was part of my degree as well, like a little bit of that. And what I was thinking is that the whole like school teacher thing, I think coding and everything like that is going to become a bigger thing within schools over the few years. So even maybe being what do they call it in schools? A tutor, don't they? Like a tutor or mentor within that. Yeah, I think opportunities could arise. But no, that's really good. And we've had so many different answers. We've had people wanting to set up their own pub. We've had, I mean, what was my one? I said I wanted to be a vet when I was younger, but I was too upset to put down animals, so I
What?
wouldn't be
Sorry?
able to do it. A vet,
Rosa? Ah, okay. Cool.
but I would cry every time I had to put down an animal, so I don't think that was the right decision for me. It's a good job I'm not in it. But anyway, Ansis, it's been so lovely having you on the podcast. I think we'll definitely have to get you in next year to revisit the predictions of where it will go, Power Platform. Um, but keep helping those around you. You know, you're such a lovely person. You can tell you're so passionate about Power Platform as a whole. And it's great to have these type of people in this industry. So thank you so much for coming on.
Again, thank you for having me, and thanks to people who joined. If you have any questions, feel free to comment and we can answer later on. And yeah, have a
Absolutely.
nice rest of your week and be in touch and use Power Platform.
Absolutely. Well, it's lovely speaking with you. And for everyone watching, we'll be back next week with another episode. But for now, have a lovely rest of your day and we'll speak soon. Thank you very much.
Bye bye.